Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Thanks for being with us today. We're talking about the U.S. office market. Well, how would you like to have some very large corporate headquarters come into your city? Or how would you like to help them with that process? Well, we have a treat for you now. We're going to talk to John Boyd with the Boyd Company, and they provide economic development, corporate mobility services, corporate site selection. They've worked with companies like Hewlett-Packard, J.P. Morgan Chase, Pratt & Whitney, Dell, and PepsiCo. He's here in Studio One with us. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Well, we appreciate it. So I'd like to kind of get a start here. If if you need a large amount of office space, let's say you need a corporate headquarters, you're kind of looking at maybe large areas of the country, what should you start as a business leader? How should you start thinking and preparing for that process?
Well, a myriad of factors are involved today in the site selection process. We call site selection both a science and an art. The science is really the quantitative analysis, measuring business costs in one city versus another, measuring taxes and available incentives in one city versus another. And the qualitative aspect of site selection involves branding, and involves a labor market and proximity to a major international airport. So every project is unique, and every project has very distinctive drivers associated with them.
Yeah. So what's the trend for changes in the site selection for corporate headquarters? As the economy changes, it seems like a lot of people are concerned with cost, and it seems like some of the tenants we work with now are a little concerned more with recruiting and retention. Are you seeing any adjustments there?
Yeah, state business climates are a paramount consideration for large corporations today. Our firm has actually developed an acronym that we use for our site selection projects, for major office projects, major headquarter projects, and it's TALIO. Okay, T is for talent. Talent always comes first.
Yeah.
A is for access to a major international airport. L is for lifestyle, and things like cultural amenities, professional sports, all of the things that the so-called millennial class craves today in terms of what companies they want to work for. I is for incentives, and O is for operating costs. And those are the critical ingredients that we use for our headquarter and our office project site selection projects.
Well, it's interesting that the monetary incentives and things are at the bottom of that, and is that where one of the ways that a company should think that maybe the talent and the other things are really more important to their top and bottom lines?
There are exceptions to that rule. Certain projects are what we term trophy projects, where state governments offer incentive packages that can mitigate a lot of the confiscatory operating cost structures. An example would be Panasonic utilizing New Jersey's Urban Transit Fund tax credits to keep their headquarters in New Jersey rather than go to an Atlanta or Virginia, for example. But yes, the critical factors that smart companies use when deciding where to put their headquarters, you don't want to overemphasize incentives. The idea of where do our executives want to live is key. And one of the reasons Atlanta has been so successful, in addition to your great Atlanta's business climate, is Jacksfield is the international airport here, right, which has more nonstop flights to global markets than any other airport in North America. That's something obviously that major multinational corporations need to have.
Yeah. And what are some of the big corporate relocations that are happening out there right now? I mean, I think everybody realizes wherever they live, that getting some of these larger employers there can be great for their business, no matter what business they're in, right?
Well, the project of the moment is GE, which is fed up with increasing taxes in Connecticut. And Jeffrey Immelt announced a year ago that GE is actively looking to locate their headquarters out of Connecticut. Initially, we suspected the usual suspects would be the strong candidates. We thought that Houston, Dallas, Atlanta would emerge as strong frontrunners. As the process evolved, it became clear that the company wants to stay in the Northeast. GE is very much a Yankee company. And I think Boston has really emerged as the strong frontrunner. The Seaport District, in particular is especially attractive for GE.
Interesting. So what are some other companies that may be coming up soon that people will be fighting for?
Marriott is going to be locating their headquarters to a new facility. Keep an eye on Virginia. Terry McAuliffe, a centrist Democrat, has made economic development a major priority of his administration. Of course, they're extending the Silver Line into the Reston area, which is going to put into play a larger part of Fairfax County for new office projects.
Are there certain regions of the country that some of these big corporations really prefer?
Yeah, there's a trend towards low-cost, pro-business markets in the Southeast, the Midwest. Indiana is becoming a mecca for advanced manufacturing and for office projects. You look at what they're doing in the high-tech sector with Angie's List, for example. And Nevada. I mean, Nevada has really emerged as one of the more pro-business states in the country under Governor Sandoval's leadership. In the last year alone, of course, they attracted Tesla to Reno. Last month, Faraday Future announced their new facility in North Las Vegas. So Nevada has really become the epicenter of the electronic car market, which is very, very interesting. You look at the center of gravity for the auto industry, which is the Southeast, and that's influenced the migration of new office projects related to the auto industry to the Southeast. We project the same thing to happen in Nevada with new office projects in markets like Summerlin and Henderson related to the electronic car market.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to talk to you about some of the incentives and how big of a player do you need to be? What do you see there for the battles? Well, stay tuned. We'll have more on the office markets and finding the right site and location for your firm. Stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you in part by your friends at Bull Realty. When your business requires proven performance, visit bullrealty.com or call 800-408-BULL. Welcome back. I'm Michael Bull, and this is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Today we're talking about the office market. We have John Boyd with the Boyd Company, and he helps companies relocate their corporate headquarters. And one of the things that a lot of people hear about is these large incentives and these battle for the different incentives from the municipalities. How big of a space do you need? How big of a tenant and an employer do you need to be to get some of these lucrative incentives?
Well, incentives are really tied to two things. Number one, the size of the project. And number two, the branding value, the panache of a particular company headquartering itself in your city. A lot of that is the artistry. It's the sales pitch of the company to leverage the largest package possible.
And what are some sample packages that you've seen that have been done?
There's really been a homogenization of incentives throughout the 50 states. Most packages vary in scale, but include the same types of things. Property tax abatements, hiring credits. We're also seeing things now, a new focus on job training. Governor Sandoval in Nevada has been a leader on that. One of the things that Tesla found very, very attractive in their selection of Nevada over Arizona and New Mexico for the Gigafactory was the enormous amounts of job training funding that the state is prepared to spend. Also infrastructure improvements, things like highway infrastructure improvements. These are all things that companies look for and expect today with a well-crafted incentive deal.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the sort of branding where these tenants are, have that panache of coming in, and Mercedes-Benz, I guess, just decided to move to Atlanta, where Studio One here is, and so how important is this branding for the actual cities to consider kind of their brand as well as the company's brand?
Branding has become a critical part of site selection today. 40 years ago, when a company would begin the site selection process, typically, we would work with the real estate department, the finance department, the HR department. Now there's marketing and communications folks at the table, and branding is a key part of the site selection process. A great example is Cadillac. Okay, Cadillac recently announced they're locating their headquarters out of Detroit to Manhattan Soho district. Why is that? Because the battle for market share in the auto industry today is for millennials. So being associated with a hip, trendy area in Manhattan like the Soho district is very, very important for a company. We're seeing the same thing with Hudson Yards. That's the next area of Manhattan that's really being developed. Companies like L'Oreal are investing there. And so branding is key. We're seeing it with GE also. One of the reasons Boston has emerged as a front runner is because of Boston's reputation as a high-tech leader.
Right. So I guess if you're in economic development of some of these cities, you got to think about, yeah, what is your brand, right? What are you trying to push out there that would help these companies want to relocate there?
Absolutely.
What about some tips before you have to go and leave us? What about some tips for a company that's looking to relocate their corporate headquarters?
Timing is everything in economic development. So corporate decision makers today are working with a very strong trend today, and that's that politicians from both parties are bending over backwards to attract new industry. So if you're the leader of a major corporation, you should demand access to your governor, to your mayor, and you should expect to be able to get him on the phone and get what you want, okay? Because politicians from both parties run on a platform of job creation. So job creators today have enormous leverage, and they need to make their voice heard.
So you mentioned getting out early, and that's one of the biggest things we see on all size tenants is, get out a lot earlier than you expect. So John, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you being here in Studio One. Well, and thank you for being with us on one of the 47 radio stations, and I may be watching on YouTube or iTunes. We appreciate you being with us. Next week, we're going to have a special show. We're going to have the Fed's view on commercial real estate. There's some talk that maybe there's some bubble pricing happening and maybe it's overheated. Well, we'll get the Fed's view, so be sure and join us. Until next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for the Commercial Real Estate Show. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty, a great place to do business. Xceligent, information for the professionals. And Commercial Search, properties for sale and lease. To access these companies or for additional videos, podcasts, and articles, visit CREshow.com.